All right. Well, welcome to Building Community and Improving Your Quality of Life with Video. If I mentioned this a few times, I don't think we had any new people, but just in case, there's a handout on the back table there. And you got a nice cool color sheet on one side. So hopefully you picked up a pack of colored pencils. Again, we apologize to the virtual people. We no ability to get you colored pencils. Roxanne can probably drop a link of a good place where you can purchase some colored pencils if you need some, but you got a pack of colored pencils back there. And you can see on the color sheet, it's focused on the Texas DLA conference. They had a conference at the end of March, and that's when we did this presentation. And so the USDLA had a cancellation. We said, oh, we have a good presentation we can stick in there and help you out. So on the other side of our sheet, you have a place where you can take some notes, make some doodles, use your colored pencils to good use as we have this conversation throughout our presentation. So those of you that don't know me yet, where have you been? But my name is Conn. I am the Director of Partnerships and Collaborations with I2I Technologies. My background, I'm a former K-12 educator. I moved down from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I grew up and went to school, to right outside the Houston, Texas area all the way back in 1998. So still consider myself a transplant, but then I start calculating the years. Yeah. I'm starting to get a little uneven on that side. I've been down there since then. Taught 5th grade, taught 6th grade, and this was kind of the time where technology was really starting to show up in a big way in the classroom. Yeah. And I was taking all these professional development classes as a new teacher, and even though I was a new teacher, I kind of fell into this leadership role of showing everybody how to use all this technology stuff. And oddly enough, I'm not a person that's a gadget guy, but when I see an effective use for a tool, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's a cool way to do it. So I kind of fell into this like instructional technology role and was doing all this stuff. That's when surfing the web was big. How do we do web quests, all this stuff? And then one day this video conferencing stuff shows up in the school. I was teaching 6th grade at the time. We had this room way in the back. That was kind of like almost like a storage room. It was like a large group instruction room nobody was using. I was like, what are those guys doing down there? And I went down there and there were like cameras in the room, this huge smart board, this control station. I'm like, oh no, this is some cool stuff. Even not being a gadget guy, I was like, okay, I got to check this out. And when I saw video conferencing for the first time, it just really opened up. Oh, wow, the possibilities are endless. I could do so many different things with this. And I kind of just fell in love with it. And then that's how I kind of ran into the Texas DLA and was like, okay, well, wow, here are some people that are doing the same thing as me, because I was at that district and they were like, we picked you to figure this stuff out. So anytime I had a question, I was like, what do we do about this? They're like, good question. Go figure out how to do that. And, like, okay. And so when I went to the Texas DLA, I was like, oh, here are my people, right? Here's some people I can kind of talk to about that. And then the journey continued to, I think a few years later, when I first came to my first USDLA thing, it's like, oh, here are more of my people, just not Texas. There's actually places outside of Texas that do distance learning and video conferencing. So that's kind of been my journey, and I got to connect up with this group at I2I Technologies that focuses specifically on video. We've got my colleague here, Roxanne. Many of you that have been in this room have already seen her, but I'll let her introduce herself.
All right, let me see. The remote person has 18 windows going, so okay, I'm on camera, right?
She's also monitoring the stream and trying to make everything happen and sharing the presentation.
Okay, so first I have to shout out because you get to talk to the people in the room first. So yes, hi Deborah, I see you on the stream. So thanks for joining us and everybody else that's on the stream. Glad to have you there. As I put in the chat, I'll be checking the stream chat when Ken's talking. So Ken, yes, I'm sort of listening to you. All right, so I'm Roxanne Glaser, and I also work at I2I Technologies. My current title is Director of Marketing and Learning. So that's what I do during the day, and then my evening kind of personality came out a few years ago, and it was at TXDLA. We had a superhero theme, and so I love to doodle. So the documents that you have in front of you are my work. And so I did a presentation that year called Super Doodle Girl. That was my superpower in the evening, and it kind of stuck. So that's what I do in the evening. But for my day job, this presentation, I love video, and I worked at ESC Region 12, a regional service center in K-12 learning space here in Texas for 12 years. And I did a variety of things. I worked as a special ed inclusion specialist. I worked with preparing teachers in the teacher preparation program. But then I moved into technology. My background, my master's is actually in educational technologies from Pepperdine. And that's when I first became interested in learning through distance. And that my coursework at Pepperdine really shifted my perspective about education from then on. So now I'm very passionate about distance learning. And so what happened at the service center was one day I came back late from lunch and there was a note on my computer that said the executive director wants to see you. And Ken, yes, I was running a little bit late, so I was a little kind of anxious about
that. Changed much since those days.
Yeah. So I go into the office, and literally this is what he said. He said, "I think we need your creativity and kind of the way you think. I need you working with the guys on our network side because we need somebody to use this equipment." This is old video conferencing stuff. But I think I want to have our kindergartners here in Central Texas connecting to kids in Pakistan. Can you do that? This was been, probably 14 years ago, and I literally had no idea what he was talking about. But what I was doing at the time was giving people usernames and passwords all day and thought anything is better than this. So I said yes. Even though I did not know what video conferencing was, I did not know what a network was. I had no idea. And so they moved me from the instructional side of the house, and I'm an instructional person. They put me, I literally worked there for 10 years with, I call them my guys because there was only one other female in the department, with the guys in technical services. So I was with the guys running the routers and they spoke a whole other language. So here I was. So now I'm kind of bilingual a bit in technology. So I can talk to teachers and I can kind of understand enough on the network side or what's going on technically to be able to bridge that and to help both sides kind of talk to each other. So yeah, that's what I did. And I got to collaborate with people all over the world and met amazing people through video conferencing. And actually, that fun fact, that's how I met Conn. We worked on a collaborative project together, and it has been amazing for me. The way I am such a fan of video, and I say this because when I started, I realized what it was, I thought it was going to be like a bad version of watching TV. And as an educator, I was like, what value is that? Because, this was, before YouTube and before so much high quality video. And the way I taught was we did stuff in my classrooms. I believe in doing things. I believe in experiential learning. And I thought video conferencing was going to be like watching TV. So I kind of drug my feet a little bit and thought it was just ridiculous. And now it is so powerful. And it's a tool that I'm delighted to work for a company that's our main focus. So I've been a content provider, and now I teach everyone from higher professors to people that are in K-12 to CEOs of organizations, people in the corporate world, how to be effective and to basically not to use video for good and not evil is how I like to say it.
So a little bit about I2I Technologies. This is another piece of Roxanne's work that captures kind of our core value and essence. At I2I Technologies, we're focused on helping people with video communications and collaborations. And those three highlighted words there in green, yellow, and blue, that's kind of our mantra. The solutions and the assistance we put together for people, it's like it needs to be something that's flexible. It needs to be something that's simple. It needs to be something that's dependable. You want that ease of use. If it's complicated or somebody needs an instruction manual on how to use it or high-level training, it's just not going to work. You need to be able to have that flexibility of like, hey, I teach this way. I want to use it this way. And then somebody should be able to come in right behind you and say, well, I teach this way. I would like to use it this way. You have to have that flexibility piece. And then the dependability, you know, it needs to be reliable, dependable, like a light switch, right? Like when I walk into a room, I don't think, is the light going to come on this time when I touch this? You know it's going to come on. And when it doesn't, that's the exception. Like, okay, circuit broken, what's going on? No. So that's what we focus on at IOI Technologies. So now that our introductions are out of the way, let's get to the meat of why we got together. Roxanne, did you want to talk a little bit about that?
I only have 15 screens and 3 different unmute buttons. Okay, so is this
Well,
one?
you know, when you pause too, I'm like, wait, was that my slide or your slide?
And then I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, oh, I've got the presenter view over here. So is that goes with this slide? Okay, so it's my turn again. All right, I got this. We'll get into it. All right, so our Ken and I, we discuss video a lot. We use video pretty much every day. I've been using video every day probably the last 10 years of my life, maybe 12, you know, who knows, I lose count. But when we started thinking about why we're such fans of video and how we use it, and then thinking about the power of it, you know, because there's always the conversation of the, you know, synchronous versus asynchronous as we talk about it in distance learning. And so we really, like I said, like Ken said, this is an encore from the USDLA conference, and their theme was building community. And it really, the more we thought about it, the more it really resonated with us, and it helped us to distill our beliefs about why video can be so powerful in both our lives and in our work. And so that's the way we framed this this breakout session today. So we're going to talk about human interaction and how video can help kind of bridge that time and distance gap. And also the last part of it, we're really going to look at those blended experiences, because a lot of times we say blended, we say hybrid, but we have different understandings of that. And so we're going to look at these 3 elements, the human interaction, time and distance, and blended experiences through the lens of video conferencing, video communication. But we're also going to, through each 3 of those, we're going to look at it at work and at home, because now video is becoming ubiquitous. It is, you know, everybody that has a smartphone in their hand or pocket, you can video conference now. And so it really is, helps us to build community in many different ways.
And then that other aspect, that second part, is that improving your quality of life. And so we'll be hitting on that as we talk about how does this improve your quality of life from a work professional standpoint, and then also from a standpoint of like just, you know, doing your personal stuff at home. So let's start out with that first point. And we want this presentation to be as conversational as you guys want it to be. We'd like to hear from you and the virtual people as well. So let's kind of start out and make sure we're kind of on the same page here about how do you define human interaction? When you see that word human interaction, how would you define it? What things come to mind?
Yeah, exchanging thoughts, talking.
Exchanging thoughts, talking.
Seeing human expression.
Expressions. Yeah, that visual piece. Body language is a big one, right? Any others? How else do you interact with other people besides talking, besides showing body language and expressions?
You communicate.
Texting, yeah, that's a big one now, right? Emojis.
Yeah.
You know, some people tell, you know, my daughter sends me all those, you know, I always say, okay, what's NAW?
Look it up. Yeah.
I don't want to look stupid and ask her. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Any others?
Understanding.
Having understanding. Yes, that compassion. We had a keynote speaker. I don't know if you watched the general session streams, Roxanne.
No.
Yeah, the keynote speaker that opened, it was telehealth oriented, but it was really futuristic.
Yeah.
You know, and he kind of talked about how the age of machines, they take over these mundane activities, but they don't have that compassion and that feeling piece, right? You know, they can mimic it if it's programmed correctly, but it's not true. That's like that human piece.
Yeah, that was, as I was listening to Ken, that was the piece too I'd add with that of the human interaction that that empathy, and it's almost some of the stuff that you sense. You know, there's that kind of, and it's more than just the text part of it. So it is that connection there. All right, so Ken, you ready for it? Here it comes. Wait
Yeah.
for it.
Here's our definition here. So Roxanne?
I was giving him time to read so we don't get cognitive dissonance, okay? So, all right, so,
Cover yourself.
Yeah, good one.
so with this, it really is that, you know, it's the people. It really is that it's another person. And I don't know, like I said, I didn't see the keynote, but it is becoming a challenge to, or, you know, as robots and chatbots and things like that, there's this push to kind of be a fake human. So what we really are focused on here is that human interaction. And as it comes down to it, you know, as things improve to where you're like, is that really a person like texting me, or, you know, the online things, the chatbots and things? Because the part that we love about the human interaction is I love being able to pick it up on someone's humor. Sometimes we have not been we do use a little sarcasm every now and then. That really is hard to pick up in text, or, you know, if it's just written, you know, you can say, I'll read this with sarcasm, but, you know, I really want to hear that voice. I want to hear, what does your sarcasm sound like? What does your humor sound like? But it really is, it's the part that we're interested in, what makes each of us human.
Yeah, so we kind of went around on this slide a little bit. We had many long conversations about how to title it, because we were talking about, is this, I think at one point we were using the word continuum, like a continuum, well, you know, in my mind a continuum goes like this. And so we settled on types of human interaction, because at one point we were kind of talking about this about how you would maybe escalate from maybe something that's you know, an email, to maybe that's something that's more like a messaging or a text, to maybe okay, they still don't get it. I think we need to have a conversation. They need to hear my voice, you know, because they're perceiving some things in this language that aren't there, or they're not getting it. So let's proceed to more of an audio type thing. And then, you know, maybe we escalate from there, and it's okay, I'm trying to explain this to you. You need to see it. You know, so then maybe I go to something where I can do a webinar or some type of a screen share type of a thing. So it's okay, look, this is what I'm trying to talk to you about. You see, and then it's okay, I still don't think they're getting it. I need to see, you know, I want to see their face. You know, I want to see, are they getting understanding? Are they just working on something else and not paying attention to me? I want that two-way interactive. And then even sometimes then it's I want more of the human connection. I want to be in that same space as that person. Yeah. Video does a good job, but there is still something about being able to you know, somebody's having a hard time being able to reach across the table and, you know, just grab their hand or, you know, touch their shoulder. I mean, that one little thing alone can communicate so much. And so we kind of talk about it more that way. Depending on the circumstance, kind of depends on where you might start that interaction too, right? Sometimes you just go right to, they're going to have to see something. So I need to have the ability to do some type of a one-way webinar type of a thing. You know, it's oh no, this is going to be a tough conversation. I'm not going to have it on the telephone. You know, I need to at least be able to see this person, you know, and see how they're taking in this information, you know, or this is going to be even tougher. I want to be in that. I don't want to have this topic discussed without being in the same space as that.
Yeah, Ken, as you were mentioning that, I just read an article, came across my field division the past week or something, and it was a company that was they were laying off, you know, a couple thousand workers. And part of their company culture, because they really, you know, were so focused on that human interaction, they made a decision. They wanted to make sure that not only did they do all of the layoffs were done face-to-face, but they also gave their employees time to say goodbye to their colleagues. So it was, to really have that human interaction with it, instead of being so impersonal of oh, I'm going to send, you know, here's the emails, your key card doesn't work, you know, in 30 minutes, get out.
So, have you ever seen the movie Up in the Air? The George Clooney movie is based on a pretty cool, and it was kind of that concept of you know, instead of, he was like, traveling all the time to go do all these, he was like a professional at that, right? And he was like, we need to transfer you to, we need to save money. We want you to do all these things over video. It's like, could that be accomplished? Secondly, yeah. Do you lose something with that? Absolutely.
So yeah, and Ken, this is, and so this is definitely a time we do want everyone participating here. So a couple of things I want you to share I want you to think about and then share with somebody that's, sitting next to you. I want you to think about how you learn. Because, we're a distance learning organization here. So I want you to think about how you personally learn. And that's your first question. And then I want you to think about what is the role of an instructor in learning. Okay, so 2 topics there. So Ken, we'll do, actually I'll run a timer here. So we'll do, let's do a 90-second. That's a long time. That gives you time for both parties to do a little sharing there. So 90 seconds, share. How do you learn, and what is the role of an instructor in learning? Go.
Yes, we have and then I think the role of the instructor is
Depending on that, depending on if it's on your own.
My system can teach a student Microsoft Office. Go here, flip this, do this. That's something I can
All right, we bring everybody back together. I heard lots of conversation, Roxanne, so I think it gets good feedback.
All right. So before I come over to you guys, I want to hear from you. Aaron, who has joined us, said that really the role of the instructor in learning, he sees that as a guide and a facilitator. And wait for it. Okay. And Deborah, let me check out and see what Deborah has. Deborah shared that I learn best when I can participate in the learning activity, even if it's just taking notes. All right, so thanks Deborah and Aaron for chiming in. And so Ken, if you'll facilitate the room, I'd like to hear some comments of the conversation there, please.
Yeah, any want to share either one of the questions?
I think we had some good ones. We kind of learned that we both learn differently, and it's a very individualized experience. I have to see something visually, absorb it, and then not so much regurgitate it, but put it physically, tactfully, using my hands, not typing, but actually writing things down to really retain that.
And how were you contrasted with that?
I need to have some hands-on experience. I can read some instructions and try to process, but until I'm there and I'm physically, actively doing what I've been asked to do or what I've been asked to learn, it doesn't stick. And then once I'm there, then the steps start to make sense, and then I can turn around, and oftentimes I'm hard to teach that to somebody else. And then once you can teach it in a simplistic manner, you know you got it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's a big one. If you really want to know if you know something, teach it. Right. And what are any other different things other than that were shared for either one of the questions? What about instructor? Anybody was talked about we focused on the learning one here too, but I don't know if anybody got into the instructor question.
One of the things we came up with was the role of the instructor is to create learning experience for a student to interact with the resources that you compile.
To help them make that connection with the resources so they have that interaction.
Right.
Dave?
Yeah.
Diana, after.
I just was going to say, I understand that and the facilitation, but I also think the teachers to a certain extent do need to know something. It's not about just doing and getting them to do whatever they're going to do. I think there's a certain amount of expertise that people bring, and I sometimes I think that gets lost in the shuffle nowadays. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
David?
Dustin back here had a good point about engagement. You know, teachers really got the kids engaged. They're part of the whole program. Things happen.
Yeah, I think helping them realize too the purpose. Like a lot of times, it's like, what do I need to learn this for? And it's like if you lay out, here's why we're doing this. You know, it's like, oh, okay, then I'm in. You know, that's why I'm doing this. You know, even if I might not like the activity or even like the topic, if you explain to me, here's why you would want to know this. Oh, okay, I'll do it.
And I tell you what, Ken, I really thank y'all so much for sharing and really interesting. And these are 2 of my favorite questions to just, sit around and talk about because I love learning and I love teaching. So I think really looking at how you learn and what the role of an instructor is, 2 important kind of flip sides of the same type of coin. But now let's shift that into thinking about how we learn with video. I wanted us to think about this because, I'll sit in sessions and I'll hear people say, we need to start creating video for our students. It's going to help them learn. And I'm like, yeah, it does. But I am always encouraging people to be thoughtful about how you use it. And I have a couple of examples that I want to share. The first one, these are 2 different examples to go with how we learn. So on the left there, that's my granddaughter, Kelsey, and she has been learning lettering. So, in the evenings, I do a lot of lettering. I'm an artist. And so one day she was like, hey, Yaya, I need to learn how to watercolor. And she was doing some watercolor lettering, and I was busy. I had projects to do. So I told her, I said, hey, I'll just log you into my Skillshare account. You can watch some videos and teach yourself. I mean, it really is pretty simple. There are experts in there. You can just see the video. You can work along with it, and there you go. She lasted literally about not even through one of the first little learning piece of it. And she comes back. She's like, I would just rather you teach me. She was like, she wanted to have that experience of being, and where we have a workspace, we work together, and so she wanted that. She preferred that. And so, as I heard a couple of comments there of people saying, oh, we learn differently. So, I think that is a beautiful example of just, so many things we can learn through video, especially if it's a skill-based thing. I learned a ton of things through there. But then there also is sometimes I heard somebody say, it's kind of allude to, it is that relationship with the student. And I think the instructor has a very critical piece of that. No matter, as our technology improves, as we have all these ways to deliver content, that human interaction can be powerful. So the teachers, you do have a role in that. And I love that comment on expertise. Ken, if we were giving away bonus points, that would be like 10,000 bonus points right there.
Oh, here, I got a special bonus prize for Diane. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes.
Got a little show. She's got one of our little journal notebooks.
Let me just tell you what, because 2 critical pieces, a lot of times people say, put kids in groups and we'll just have cooperative learning. Well, that only works if somebody in the group knows what in the world they're doing. The other piece too, I am a yoga instructor, so I'm 200-hour yoga certified yoga teacher, but I'm also a yoga student. I'm working on my 500-hour certification. And let me tell you what, I always say, oh, I'm just going to watch some, YouTube videos on yoga. I'm going to do yoga. Well, there's a very wide gap in my abilities and my learning as a student from just watching a video versus what you see here. Let me tell you what, I could not do a handstand by myself. But with an expert yoga instructor who is teaching me, the concepts of how my body needs to be shaped and the concept of if you want your body to go up, you've got to press down. Lots of things going on in that picture that I could do with an expert teacher that I couldn't do by myself watching a video. So I want us to always think about that of as we, if it's video conferencing, if it's teaching with video, what can we do? And in both of these cases, I think having that human interaction, it did help the quality of both my learning and, and my connection to my student and my learner.
Yeah, so our next topic is on that time and distance piece. So, the question there for everybody is, how do you overcome challenges of time and distance? What are some strategies? What are some things that you do when you're like, just don't have enough time in the day to do this? Or, yeah, I need to be in Pittsburgh and I can't be there. What are some things that you do? What are some strategies you do to overcome challenges of time and distance? Robert?
Well, if all the people in, say, a given class can't listen to the video in real time, you have it recorded and let them listen to it later on. It's not perfect, but at least it gives them an idea of what they missed.
Yeah, so power of video too, to basically, I always call that time shifting, right? It's like if I want to be able to have a little bit of control over time and shift the time, video definitely helps with that. Any other strategies you use to overcome challenges?
Plan out exactly what you want to cover in a certain allotted time period.
Planning, planning. Okay. Anything else? Anything else come to mind?
So I've been using Flipgrid in my classes for about 2 years now, and what I'll do is set up because I now finally implemented it, a chain discussion. So start the discussion, students will participate as children in that discussion, so you have the interaction, but it's done on their time, their terms.
Any others? Any from the virtual, Roxanne?
No, let's see. We do not have, but I did get, okay, you know what? We got 2 more kudos for the expertise comment, so just wanted to drop that into the conversation.
Yeah, that's another prize. Prizes. Let's keep that under the hat once we award the prize. No more kudos. So time and distance, how are we defining that? There we go. She's playing with her screen. She only has 2. Before we started, she was like, maybe I need 3 screens now.
All right, there you go, Ken. So is that mine or yours?
That's you.
Oh, it is. Okay, so now we've got like more going on here. All right, so yes. Okay. Man, that is a little bit. So our definition, time and distance, we're looking for, again, those flexible and simple tools to create access and connections. And Flipgrid, great, because that's like the bonus of like you can see and hear them, but you can also time shift. I love that concept. So that's what we're looking at, and we're always seeking what is, and it doesn't always have to be like the new shiny bell or whistle, but it really is like what's going to make it simple and flexible.
And we have a couple examples, but I was in Tom's session yesterday, and it's like focusing on, keeping in mind what are the goals and objectives. What are you trying to do, and not getting so much caught up in the technology piece. And I think sometimes I would say at least within the last 2 years, it might even be a little bit longer now, but it's like technology is starting to become so much more easier and reliable that it fades into the background and you can focus more on what you're trying to do. So it's a little bit easier. But still sometimes when things aren't cooperating or it's a new tool, you get so caught up in, oh, cool, I can do this. And then all of a sudden you're like doing stuff that you're like, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with like what we were starting to do this in the first place for. Let's re-say. Yeah, so it's important to keep in mind like what are the goals and objectives, and then also when you come up with roadblocks, saying, okay, wait a minute, this might not be how I wanted this story to be told, but how else could this be told and still have the same intentions? So we had 3 examples here of at work and at school, and the first one is quality and equity. It's like, how do I bridge time and distance but still keep that same quality for everybody and keep it equitable? Like so many times in our distance learning programs, people are like, oh, distance learning, we want to do distance learning. Yeah, just turn on the camera and hit record. Now everybody can stream it. Or like, hey, we made a video of the lecture. Everybody can just watch that. That'll be great. That'll be like, is it really great? And especially when you get these instructors that are afraid to be on camera, right? And it's like, well, I don't want the camera on me. It's like, do you hide under the table in front of the kids coming in the room? If you do, that's a big problem. But, if you're not, that's not equitable to those people on the far side. They need to be able to see you. They want to know who you are, right? They want that connection. So that's important because we had a group that we work with that, they got it from the get-go, and their whole mission was like when they looked at introducing video and distance learning and bringing people in remotely, they were doing a blended concept where they had, most of the people were there on site, but then they were bringing in a few people, and they were conscious about how we're only going to offer this if we can offer them experience at the same level of quality and equitable experience as the people that are sitting in that same space as them. So that's important. Sick children, too, is a big one. You have the best laid plans, right? You're getting ready for work. You're thinking about, I'm going to be able to make it through today. It's going to be crazy. And, you hear somebody go, Dad, Mom, okay, yeah, I'll be there. And it's like they walk into the room and, right? It's like, oh, man, So it's like, what am I going to do today? This isn't how I planned the day to go, but what can I do? Oh, well, hey, I can work remotely today. We have these meetings. It's a critical meeting. It took us 2 months to get this scheduled. Let's do a video. I'll send a link. Let me jump on video. It's not optimum, but let's still carry on the best that we can do in the moment. And then that third one, that wear and tear, this is more to that quality side of what we were talking about. Even though you might have the means and the capability to be everywhere physically, is it really necessary to go through that wear and tear of doing that? I mean, I think some people, it's fun to travel. Like, we're having fun here, but, that fun comes in an expense too, right? Like, I'm running on, not as much sleep as I should have, not as much rest as I should have. I want to make this time quality for me, so I'm focusing on other people, even though, like, people might be calling me, needing me to do other things. So there is that wear and tear associated with all of that intention of like, I need to be in that location. Do you need to physically be in that location, or is this something that you might be able to handle, with a video conference experience, and then maybe you go to be in that physical space at another time and make it more of a quality. There's more of a reason for you to be there.
Check here. Yeah. So as we continue on that, as we think about that, connecting in real time in real life, the images you see there, we do a Monday night, just kind of on our, a book study. We're reading Having a Merry Heart in a Martha World. And yeah, we could do, discussion boards for that, but it really is a much richer experience for us, for our small group, to meet through video. And so it's a way to connect with people that we've met through conferences and colleagues that we've met throughout the U.S. Through video. And so that's one of the ways we use it in our real life. And then, Ken, I know I promised I would test the video. Didn't
I forgot last time was my responsibility. I'm like, okay, this time I'm going to make it yours because I forgot last time, and we forgot again. So hopefully our audio didn't work the last time we played it.
So I need everyone to just give me that good technology vibes coming here.
Send a positive mojo this way. See if it works.
Who knows what's going on here? So, let's go to plan B here. So here we go. Let's see how this works out here.
Yes, this video that we're going to show, I found it shows a lot of really...
So could you hear any of the audio coming through?
Yeah, I think it was coming through. It's a little choppy, but I think we'll get the gist.
Okay.
Hey, Portal, call Lauren. Wait, it's moving.
If I go over here, camera follows me, doesn't it?
You can see up here, right?
Yeah. Run past it like quick. God, just rinse it in the sink. Now, you have a knife? Whoa. Developed in the Renaissance.
That's kind of.
16. Then,
Now up. Make a mark on the world, you know. You got a lot of talent.
Inhale.
Right.
Hey, Casey.
Yoga. Yeah. So yeah, video, you know, using Facebook. I thought that was a great video of just all these things that can just be in the moment and richer. Like, you know, Roxanne and I had even had the conversations, like even when your family might only be like 20 minutes away, it's like still sometimes like, I can't get over there just to like, you know, talk for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. That would make sense, right? But jump on video real quick, and while we're making dinner, we can just have a quick conversation, be able to see each other just like we would be if we were in the same house living together still.
That is, and that to me right there, that video shows that difference of, you know, I've been doing video from the time when it was crazy hard, unreliable, and super expensive. So now just to be like, I'll be waiting in the car and Kelsey goes inside the store and she will like FaceTime me to be like, hey, which one of these am I supposed to get? She'll just put the camera around and I'm like, oh, it's that one right there. So super quick. So now let's move to how do you define or use a blended approach? So
Yeah, I'll facilitate here if anybody has any comments to that.
So a mix of face-to-face and like what we're doing here today, right?
Yeah, so we got like a mix of how we're doing here, where I'm in the same space, but you're in over video with some of our virtual folks. How else might you define blended? Is there any other ways when you guys label something blended or hybrid?
Hybrid is just a mix of seated and online learning. You know, usually if we only have, let's say, a 3-hour class block and 5 hours are required for the class, 3 hours are in the class, 2 hours are hybrid done on their own time. I think the big thing here, though, is to use video responsibly. You know, in other words, a lot of my online students choose online because they don't want to be tied to a time, to a place. They want the freedom to study whenever they want. And I have instructors who basically make seated classes online, which kind of defeats the idea of online learning. So if you're going to use synchronous video, choose a time, choose a place, and be very succinct in why you're doing it.
Yeah, that mixture of synchronous and asynchronous. If something is synchronous, there better be a good reason for it to be synchronous. If it's asynchronous, it better not be something where I'm like constantly like, well, I got 16 questions about this that I don't even know how to answer before I even do this.
I got something from the previous session we were in too, is we talked about if you're going to have an online class, don't just make it a repository for something that it's just a shell, it's a box that you put things in. Utilize the internet, the resources and things out there that make this a blended experience. So people in the classroom can go to a site or go interact with something just the same way that the people at a distance are doing, right? So utilize those other resources to branch out from that little online box or that screen that you're on and let everybody collaborate and even bring, you know, different or disparate experiences back to the group, right?
And, you know, that is, I love the comment on that because, and this is why, you know, Ken and I we spend a lot of time discussing this, it's why we're passionate about distance learning and, you know, because what I find is that when we're thoughtful about our tools and technologies and align those with our goals and objectives, then we really can come to that word blended. It is not, you know, we have the tools and technologies and resources now to move so far beyond just like a simple correspondence type to where I do something, you do something, to now where we can have this bringing together of the learners in that shared knowledge. And, you know, when I got my degree from Pepperdine, this was in 2000 is when I graduated with my master's in educational technology, and it was a hybrid course. We were at Pepperdine for a week in the summer, we did a month of a little like training course, and then we went into our degree coursework. And this was before we had an LMS. There were no LMSs that we used at the time. There was, no video chat. So it was all using, our synchronous tool was Tapped In, which it was a synchronous text tool, but we had times where each week we had to meet with our professor there, but it wasn't all the time. And so it's that type of thoughtfulness that we feel that is so imperative now. Like I said in the beginning, it's like not using, a discussion board all the time. It's not using video all the time. It's being thoughtful and intentional about selecting those tools. And now I'm going to throw it back to Ken, who has, this is a long conversation here, Ken, so it's yours.
Yeah. This took us a while to kind of process and come up with, because like most things, like I'll start talking about something and, Roxanne's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you saying? You're talking in circles. And, it's like, okay, let's try to get something visual out of this to get my thought, what I'm thinking on paper. And similar to what everybody's talking about, it's like, I feel like a true blended process is that thoughtful combination of goals and resources, looking at what are we trying to do here? What's the intention, right? So it's like, you kind of have to start there. What's the intention? What do we want to do? What are we trying to do? And then looking at like, okay, so this is what we want to do. What kind of resources do we have for us to be able to accomplish this thing? All right. And then also in conjunction with that, you're looking at, okay, these are the resources. Now, what are the circumstances? Because if you have a resource, this is really cool, that's going to take 20 hours to, prepare. And you're like, well, this is due tomorrow. So throw that one out. We can't use that resource, even though it would be so much cooler, So you got to look at what are the circumstances that we're under right now. And then you take those things and say, okay, well, here's the plan. We heard somebody say earlier, hey, Robert was like, you need to have a plan in place. Make a plan for what you want to do. All right. So then you have a plan. And then that last piece, that do review. Then you got to start doing it. Like sometimes we get so caught up in the planning process that, I was in I got something from the Sarah. I'm not a state authorization person. That stuff. I'm just like, I don't even know what that's about. But they did talk about how it's like constantly been like this planning process forever. It's perpetual, right? So it's like, you have to start doing something, right? Start doing it. Even if you're like, this isn't feeling right, start doing it. And then you're reviewing as you're doing it and saying, okay, wait, what we once thought what our circumstance was, that we assessed that incorrectly. So let's fix this a little bit. Let's move this resource that we had, crappy resource. Throw it out. We're going to have to go back and look at a different way to do it, right? And so you're constantly kind of reassessing, but the most important part is this one right here, that intention. So when you do start to get lost and say, hey, something doesn't feel right here, that's usually a mental note to be like, wait, why are we doing this in the first place? That's why this isn't feeling right, because we're totally off track trying to make this resource work, or trying to make this circumstance fit how we want to see this play, or we're stepping back and saying, hey, what we once thought how this day should go, this week, this program, this project, must not be how it needs to go. So let's kind of look back at that.
So now one of the things that I am a big believer in is anytime I present to a group, anytime I stand before a group of educators, people, just in general, I like to have done what I'm advocating. It's really hard for me just to pick something up and they say, hey, go and teach this. I like to do it first. So with that caveat, here is a little peek into the blended process that Ken and I go through, or that we use, and specifically for prepping for the USDLA conference and the TXDLA conference. So we thought this would be and yeah, that's not Photoshop. That is live. That is us in Ken. Just
that's like, I was like, she's like, oh, let's take a picture. And she goes, should we go put her on? I'm like, no, I don't care. And then she's like, oh, good, here, I have this one. I'm like, okay, maybe I don't care. I don't know if I really want that picture. She's like, oh, you said you didn't care. I'm going to use this one.
So yeah, if he had taken the flip of it, I'm tiny down there. It's no
That's why it's good for her, because she's the tiny image.
Yeah, the tiny one. It's like, and the baseball cap, but I mean, it's real life. you know, because a lot of times now in the way we present ourselves, you know, if it's always the Facebook, the Instagram, this is really how we work. We use video, like I said, I use video all the time. Now, as we mentioned, if we had tried to do all of what we needed to get done for this conference, for these conferences through video, we would still not be finished with our prep for TXDLA that was in March. I mean, you just can't. You cannot. There literally is not enough time in the day, not enough personal bandwidth to get that done. So some of the tools that we use, we're in the transition in our company of trying to not do as much internal work through email and like not emailing files. So we have been using or learning to use Microsoft Teams, which, Ken, I heard your comment about wanting to throw a tool out the window. Were you referencing Teams by any chance right there?
No, I actually wasn't.
So it really is a big shift for us to do this. So we have given it, you know, we're like in there, we have our structure. So what you see here, we've got a shared workspace. We do use our video there. We also do a lot. Ken is fantastic with keeping us on track with like calendar invites and having that linear, very detailed structure. So we do use our Microsoft Calendar a lot, and so that gives us a little reference there. We also needed a tool that was visually appealing to me. I prefer tables and spreadsheets. And Ken, I'm putting words in your mouth, so just hop in if I misrepresent your your preferred work style. And Ken likes to have a lot of the context and lots of narrative text to give us background to it. And so
She's so kind with her words. That's how she talks about it.
So one of our challenges is, you know, in this collaboration as we're working together in our blended approach, is to find, you know, how to meet the needs of both parties here. And so one of the things that Ken added this time that was super helpful for me was this spreadsheet where I could see all of the items we needed to do and kind of the status. And so that's what worked for us. You know, we're not using Trello, or we haven't even we dipped our toe a couple times into like Microsoft Planner. That's just not where we are in our, you know, workflow. I know some people are really heavy into using Slack. So many tools out there. And so we wanted to just give you a peek into really how we work, because what we believe so firmly is this whole process of set your intention, what resources do you have, what is your circumstance of your environment, make that plan, do it, and review it. And so we're constantly reviewing how we work together, the tools we use, and how we can improve with that. So that's one of the ways that, and we do use video. What we found that helped us with this process is we do a weekly check-in, and that's been very effective to use video to kind of help, because believe it or not, Ken and I tend to like misunderstand some things and be like, that is not even close to what I intended. So it really is nice to have that face-to-face check-in, and those of you that know Ken know that sometimes like his tone of voice is like sometimes the same. So I'll have to ask him like, are you upset or are you mad about that? And he's like, no, that's just how my voice is.
My passionate voice is my angry voice, apparently. Like, dude, just calm down. You know, why are you upset about it? I'm not upset. Now I am. What the hell do you think I'm upset about?
It really, you know, just having these tools and working through them, it really does, you know, we get a lot done. But yeah, so it really does come back to that intention. So now I'm going to toss it over to Ken, who's going to give you an example at home of what that looks like.
Yeah, so the personal example for me is, you know, my relationship with my mom. So I mentioned earlier, like I'm a transplanter, right? So I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. Now I'm in Houston, Texas area. My mom still lives up that way. So, obviously our intention is to still have this relationship. Yeah, we still like each other. Even after all these years, we still like each other and spend time with each other. And, that's a picture of my daughter there with us too. So I have a 17-year-old daughter. So it's like, how do we spend time together with those circumstances? You look at what resources you have available, what's going on right now, what's going on this time of year. you make a plan, and you do it, you execute it. Well, that text, you might not be able to see it so well, but it starts out, she says the pooping every day, so hopefully on the mend. That was not about her, that was actually about her cat. She was going to be coming for a visit, and her cat got sick, and she was going to have some people check in on it. And, she was like, well, I was already burdening people. Now this cat needs medicine twice a day. And it's like, I just feel like I can't leave this cat here for somebody to take care of. And, it's like, I'm going to have to cancel the trip, reschedule the trip, So it's like, all right, it's like, let's go to the next best thing, right? Like, let's just meet over video. Instead of you being here for the gift opening or birthday or whatever, we can set this up in the living room. And in fact, this shot was just a recent one. My daughter just had her birthday, and so we connected to her grandmother, and I had her open her grandmother's gift there on video, just like she was sitting there and just talked. We did the same thing at Christmas this year too. So we just set my mom up, just like she was kind of sitting there, and she could see the tree and the presents and everything, and just about as good as it would be if she was actually sitting in the room. Maybe even better, because you're like, all right, Mom, bye, we'll see you soon, we were able to close that off. Yeah, so again, it's kind of remembering the intention. It's like, it could have been like, oh, great, now you can't come, why do you have that stupid cat anyways? He's mean and nobody likes him. Maybe don't give him the medicine. No, it's like, okay, well, we can still have somewhat of that same intention. Let's connect over video and catch on back.
Okay, that always, were you talking about her cat or your cat there?
Yeah, he's pretty mean too. My daughter's cat.
That is hilarious. All right, so that's kind of, our take on how we can use video to build community and improve your quality of life. For me, it's always been that kind of thinking through how do we best, and I can't remember, and I don't know who made the comment of but it really is, our students choose online courses for flexibility, and so then if we try to take it and here's this rigid structure and we're all at the same place at the same time, well, that's pretty much a face-to-face, So how is it we can take our access to all of these amazing tools and create that community? Because one of the things that when we think about as a learner, I learn best when I learn with. When I'm learning with my hands, when I'm doing something, when I'm learning with others. And not to discount expertise, because I do like to have that expert to guide me. But so we wanted to just share some of these things about thinking about it through human interaction, how to overcome time and distance, and really how to create our blended experiences. So I'm going to turn it over to Ken, who will wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so just to kind of wrap things up, again, we work with eye-to-eye technologies. We focus on video communication and collaboration. We just like to help people with that. So even if you might already have some equipment, you're like, we're good with our equipment, we're good with our solution, I'd like to get a little bit better at doing this. Or we've had this idea about video, we've never been able to do it that way, but, is there a way that we could do that? So, we like to promote, we love to have conversations with people. We're video nerds, so especially if it has anything to do with video, it's like, yeah, please, let's talk about some video stuff, and we like to help people come up with, okay, here's a plan for how to do that, and then here's how we would recommend you carry that out. So there is a pamphlet in the back. If you want to grab one on the table, feel free to take one. You might want to take one of these. You might need it after tonight, after the reception. One of my cards are back there too. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate you participating in having some conversation. Roxanne's coloring book is Super Doodle Girl. Awesome. Yeah, did you want to say a few words about it? It's actually going to be one of the prizes that we're going to do for the drawing too. It was on the registration table.
Yeah, I heard, somebody asking about the doodling. That's one of the things that I help people with is how to introduce sketchnoting to your staff. I love to doodle. a couple of, what was it been, 2 years ago, Ken? We did the sketch noting for understanding session there at USDLA. And like I said, Ken's got some of the coloring books there. One of them will be in the drawing. So it's the coloring book and it's got some really amazing pens with it. Yeah, some good stuff there. And so, yeah, we, I don't know if you can tell from the end of this, but yeah, we do love video and we love connecting and having conversations about how to make things really great for our students and, for each other. So thank you so much for your time and attendance. We really appreciate it.
And if you wouldn't mind, I saw a ton of you using your sheet with your colors. If you'd snap a pic and put it in Attendify, that'd be great because Roxanne's in there interacting too. I know she'd love to see some of the stuff. I'd love to see it too. I only got to see a peek over some of the tabletops here. So yeah, if you'd snap a pic and put it in Attendify so we can see how you took notes or how you were doing your color sheet.
I have a question. What platform are you guys using to connect today?
Right now we're using LifeSize. Yeah, we're using LifeSize Cloud to connect. So LifeSize has a web-based version. So we're using this Kodak in here. Roxanne's connecting off of her computer. In our office, we had somebody pop in yesterday that said, hey, I have this virtual presenter. I didn't know how I was going to. I was like, hey, you're in the right room. I was like, here's a link. And their virtual presenter was able to just drop into the meeting. So people can do it on their phone. There's even a component where people that are driving that don't have access, they can just call into the meeting.
So, and this is a Logitech, just that little, I think it's a C22 or 220, whatever the basic little, I don't use the internal on my HP because it's terrible. So I do have a external Logitech camera that I'm using.
Thank you, guys.